Hello everybody. So I'm doing another Facebook Live and it's for April, the intuitive patterns for the month of April, and it's a little late because it's the 11th of April, but I've been busy guesting some beautiful Buddhist monk friends of mine from Bhutan, and we have been traveling around Northern California and Oregon and having a wonderful time. So I'm a little bit behind, but I'm still going to give you some of the astrological and intuitive patterns that are for April. Needless to say, April has been sort of intense. Part of the reason it's been intense is that we've been dealing with a Venus retrograde, and unfortunately it's going to be ending in a few days on April 15th. And when Venus is retrograde, people have a tendency to feel sort of unloved and unappreciated and sometimes unseen, and it sometimes brings up people from your past that you somehow reconnect with, and I got to reconnect with my Buddhist monk friends, which was really wonderful and loving and fabulous. So on one level, a Venus retrograde is good, and on another level, it's kind of stirred the pot a little bit related to some of the emotional things that have been going on. We also presently are in a Mercury retrograde, and so when Mercury is retrograde, there's a lot of miscommunications and a little odd things. And so even for myself, it's like Mercury went retrograde and my phone died, and I had to get a new phone and set up the new phone. And even now, just trying to get ready for this video, I couldn't get the hotspot to work. And so, it's a classic Mercury retrograde that is happening. So watch your telecommunications and your gadgets and just try and breathe and stay patient with that. We're also dealing with a Saturn retrograde, and Saturn is the planet of hard work and struggle, the lord of karma, the planet of trials and tribulations. And it's retrograde, and so things seem a little heavier. They're a little bit harder. I'm noticing with my clients that it's kind of aggravating some underlying emotional stresses that are already there, and things just don't seem to let up. And one of the things that I've been trying to say to people is that during this particular cycle, in fact, the whole year really, nothing is going to move as quickly as we would really like it to move. And so patience is kind of the game. There are moments in life that I think that you can go for instant gratification and fulfillment, and I don't think we're in one of them for pretty much a lot of this year, at least the first 6 months of the year for sure. Once we get past the solar eclipse that's going to be happening in Leo on the 21st of August, you'll probably see some bigger changes and bigger things kind of shifting around a little bit. But I know everybody wants things to kind of move, and nothing is moving as quickly as anybody is really hoping. Also, I just want to say that at the end of the month, we're dealing with a Pluto retrograde that happens on April 20th. And it doesn't necessarily affect your daily routine, but it can make people a little pensive and moody when Pluto, which is kind of a karmic planet, goes backwards. And so, kind of recognize that you need to kind of take charge of your life, and you need to be behind the wheel of the vehicle that you're driving. And I think with this Neptune, so it's Neptune in Pisces, I think that people are feeling a lot like the vehicles that they have been using to maneuver and deal with this world are not functioning well. And so my joke to myself is that it's like we've been driving a car, and the car is finally kaput. And so we look out, and instead of roads, we're seeing a lot of water because of Neptune being in Pisces. And so it's kind of like we need a boat. So we're trying to change the vehicle on how we move and how we flow and how we shift. So if you can think of it like the vehicles upon which we have been able to maneuver in the past no longer function in the same way. So we're trying to learn some new ways of doing that. It'll make it a lot easier. Needless to say, there's a lot of emotions kind of blowing up, and everybody is trying to figure out how to take a fresh look on a lot of different things. And the moon and the full moon is really big, and of course my phone is going to ring right at this particular moment. But it's an intense time that we're in. This is sort of an intense month. So if I look at the intuitive patterns for the month of April, when I was doing the cards were kind of big and heavy. They are like sorrow, projections, the beaver, which is about, what are we building and questioning what we're building. And we're trying to understand what our projections are on other people, as well as maybe the projections other people have on us. And there's a lot of deep emotion that has been stirred up because of this astrology. And we're trying to transform it, and we're trying to kind of step into a more magical viewpoint around that. And we're trying to figure out how to have hope. But I think hope has to start within our own center and our own ability to know who we are. And so there's a lot of like old perceptions of ourselves that I think we have to let go of at this point. And we're letting go of inappropriate relationships and seeing things kind of in an abrupt, clear eye. And I don't want people to fall into the negativity of that, but it's about seeing things for really what they are, and understanding inside of yourself how you got to this place for yourself. So it's an emotional month. April is an emotional month, and everybody's feeling kind of tired and exhausted, and I really want everyone to kind of take really good care of themselves under these aspects, because everybody is really exhausted and tired. There are moments in life where there are patterns that act in a series, and that once that pattern has been begun, it kind of has a life of its own, and we're in one of those right now. So you are being presented with a series of choices and situations that seem beyond your control. And I think that's part of the lesson, is in recognizing where you can have control and where you can't have control. And sometimes things have to unfold until they have their own endpoint, and then there is a realization or an understanding of that. There's something bigger trying to happen than the small attachments, egos, and desires that you have personally. And I don't want us to give up on hope, because I'm like the hope person. I love hope. But bad things happen in life to show us where we are stronger and more resilient than we suspected. And, when I write, I try and kind of uplift people. And that's how I uplift myself too, is like through my own words. And it's like my words actually guide me to my own awareness. So I think it's important for you to find what will inspire you and what will keep you evolving, and keep you being honest with your growth and the steps that you need to take. So the surges of energy that are happening are prepping you for an energy acceleration that is already happening, in case you did notice it, is part of the reason you're so exhausted. So the energy is up-leveling, it's getting bigger and bigger, and we're all trying to physically, energetically make that adjustment. It was one of the reasons I was really grateful that my Buddhist monk friends were out here, because they're so calming and they're so soothing that they just, the energy in the house and the property just really stabilized and leveled out, because they're so neutral, and they're really accepting of whatever is. And that would be what I would tell everybody to try and do, is like accept what is with honesty, and then notice what you can do to change it and what you can't do to change it. So the energy is being forced for you to go beyond what you know, and it's not comfortable, especially if you've been operating from a place of shallow perceptions, and right now we're not going to have that option. So my joke is, with Neptune and Pisces, we're all learning how to swim, and we're all going to have to go deeper and deeper and deeper, and we've just begun to go deep. So we have to make an energetic adjustment so that we can do that. You are being freed from an old cage that has kept you safe, but has drastically limited your potential. And I wish we all could grow when we didn't get challenged, but I think that sometimes our best self shows up when we are challenged. There is a fight that's happening between your human self and your soul essence. And the ego inside your mind wants to fight to maintain its control over your reality, but it's failing. It's just going to fail. And this ironclad grip that your ego has had up to this point is slipping, and what you've been hanging on to, whether it's a belief, a perception, a piece of metaphysical truth, or an element of safety, is actually falling away. And it's supposed to fall away because you can't depend on tools, because tools don't have the power. If you do that, they're just crutches. You actually have to have them fully integrated on the inside. And so we're asking, the astrology and everything is asking for a deeper, fuller integration. So it's only in the greatest personal deaths do we discover our own true nature. And by recognizing that the life you have lived is complete, and knowing that you have to shift into this new life, you can find the peace that you seek. I mean, we go through these changes in life, and nobody likes these big monstrous changes. It's like, oh my gosh, I've got to let go of all of that. I've got to change. I've got to move. I've got to let go of this job. I've got to find another job. I mean, all of those changes that people are feeling right now are really scary. But when you accept them, and then you find the peace that's happening on the inside. And yes, there's a tremendous amount of grief that's happening, that's being processed as you let go. And it's okay to express the disappointment and the loss of faith that you might be feeling in yourself and others in the world, but don't hang on to that grief. Kind of let the tears of loss bring you back to your vulnerable self. Only by coming back to openness and innocence can you receive the new insights and find that place of self-acceptance that you're seeking. So hurt heals if you allow it time to mend. But you must not habitually stretch and scratch at all of those wounds, because they just keep bleeding and bleeding and bleeding, and then everything takes a lot longer to heal. So know that this is a time where the choices of people with a high degree of influence seem to be out of touch with the reality. And money and power is isolating people more and more from the, quote, real world. And that does not allow them the perspective that you might have hoped. So expect aggressive and high-spirited public expression. I think that sometimes that can be pioneering in its approach to kind of break the leaded crystal ceiling of those with influence and status. Egos and those in power will attempt to drive their patterns forward without the concern of consciousness or the softening of compassion. And if there's one thing that I think is really powerfully happening at this point, is the bringing together of compassion